you so much. We have a powerhouse panel inside the room. So good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm very excited to be here, right? I really hope all of you have a great, insightful day today. You have lots of networking, and we really get back home and to our organizations with some great learnings. Now let's start with a quick reflection and question, right? How many of us today have looked at our organization's cloud bills and said, oh my God, how have we reached here? Where did we start? So that's the reaction why we are here today. We really want to have more focus, more attention on converting the complexity that cloud comes with into giving more clarity. Now, the cloud gave us freedom. It gave us freedom to build, to scale, to deploy. But then with that freedom came a lot of chaos, and we lost visibility. So freedom without visibility quickly becomes chaos. And so, thank you to the panels for for agreeing to share so many insights with us today. Let's dive straight right in. So I'd like to start to set a broad tone for this session. Probably just a quick question, right? What are the key challenges that you think comes along with managing cloud costs at scale? Because since all of you come from so diverse organizations across industries, enterprise, startups, customers of all scales and sizes, and I'm sure you've seen all of this evolution firsthand. So what are some of the real life challenges that you see when you see your teams managing cloud cost at scale? Maybe Neil, if you could go.
Yeah, I'll start off.
Yeah.
Honestly, challenges that diamond dozen, right? I'll probably pick the top two, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said visibility. When it comes to managing cloud costs, visibility is right up there at the top. Proper visibility.
Yeah.
You mentioned about cloud bills, right? And at the end of the day, you actually have very detailed cloud bills. You have, what are the instances you ran down to the seconds, what was the memory utilization, network utilization. But generally, those bills are not really in alignment with how your business is run, right? You do not really know what is contributing to that increase in network cost or increase in number of CPU and memory utilization. So until and unless you actually have visibility of, let's just say, this is my network utilization. If I have 40 TB of network that is passed through my system, what is contributing to it? Until and unless you have that visibility, in the start things are fine, but when the product or the service actually grows, you don't really know, or there's not a lot of predictability about what your cloud cost is going to be when you hit 10x, 100x of the scale. The next thing is architecture. Again, very clearly you mentioned that it's very easy to start off with. You have that POC, you use some sort of a managed service, you start off, you deploy it, and your aim is to get things out there. But once things start scaling, when things start working well, your focus is to kind of improve the product, right? But again, when things hit scale, the design decisions, the architecture that you had boils down to finally what your costs are. And those become a hindrance of optimization. A very simple example is, so we do a lot of IoT monitoring, device monitoring. We process anywhere between 40 to 45 billion data points on a daily basis. That's data coming in, and there are different services inside. Once they consume the data individually, that blows up to probably 600 to 800 billion points going around the cycle within the system. Now imagine if we made a decision that for disaster recovery, I'm going to have an active. I'll have my brokers and services across all different availability regions. Imagine 600 billion data points floating around from one region to the other. My network cost is going to blow off. A design decision that I probably took 5 years back is coming to bite us right now. So, primarily lack of proper visibility and design and architecture decisions, according to me, are major challenges when it comes to costs.
Awesome. Awesome. I think fair point. I very, very closely agree with it. I've seen organizations struggling with the design part of it that you mentioned, right? Because you need to have that long-term vision. It's not just like a 6 months or a 1 year project. Thank you, Neil. Thanks for that insight. Anybody else who wants to go?
Okay. Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So probably Veronica will start first defining scale because I come from a telecom background, and we have a customer base of 500 million. So if we were to take a customer base, we would be the third most populous country in the world. So for scale, the scale that we look at is almost unparalleled. You will find very few companies, very few organizations, very few solutions that are deployed at that particular scale. When we are deploying our applications, we are probably looking at a 100 million plus customer base. We start off with a 10 million customer base as a first step, and then we scale it up to 100 million. The problem that happens there is many people in the organization are looking up to, say, a 10 million customer base as their ultimate goal that they are reaching at. So that is a maximum problems that they would see. We encounter them as our first step. Now, to address these challenges, in terms of cost optimization, one of the major problems that we see, apart from the technical issues that you were talking about, is the mindset of the people. I think people today are so used to the credit card way of dealing with finances that they are very reactive when it comes to cost, addressing cost. When you're looking at that particular scale, you have to be proactive. You cannot adopt a reactive approach that exists across the organization. So that mindset has to be looked upon and has to be challenged within the organization. Another example, if I give you, so I cannot probably share the exact numbers, but say if my cloud cost is around 1,000 crores, and if the optimization doesn't exist, if we are overspending, if we are not optimized even by 1%, it comes around to 10 crores. And if you're sitting in your CFO office trying to explain those bills to him, he'll kill you. Because you cannot go back saying, okay, this is just 1% of wastage. The engineering team might come back saying it's 1%, but he'll not accept that 1% as an answer because that 1% is now translating into 10 CR. So at our scale, things start snowballing to a very great extent. So it becomes a lot of challenge for us looking at that particular scale. From the technical point of view, so I agree to what Neil you were saying. The other problem that we see is whenever we are trying to deploy a particular solution, no one across in the industry has experience sizing their platforms to the kind of customer base that we have. So usually what happens, I might go to the best of the techies. They might come out with some best known or some standard guidelines which exist on the internet, just club that into a sizing document and share it across to us. The engineer starts off, he adds certain buffer, then there are multiple reviews, and that there are buffers over buffers that leads to those problems. So when we look at an organization level, there are so many buffers being hidden here and there that is causing a lot of inefficiencies that have to be dealt with. So at our scale, if I can summarize, at a small scale, for a lot of people, the problem is more like the 1980 or 1990 Bollywood movies, where you had just one hero and a villain and everything is sorted by the end of it. For us, it's more like a Marvel universe with so many superheroes, and Thanos is still alive at the end of the movie, so you can't help it, right? So that is how it is.
Anand, would you like to add something?
Yeah, definitely. Hello. Okay. So thank you for this great insight. So that remembers me the basic definition of what FinOps is all about, right? So by now we all are aware, right, as to what FinOps is all about. It's all about a culture, right? So it's a culture which expects us to collaborate with different teams across our ecosystem wherever we are working, right? It includes a finance team, engineering team, operations team, delivery team, and so forth, right? So in continuation to this, from the challenges perspective, one of the biggest challenge which we all are encountering for sure is like working in a hybrid, multi-cloud hybrid environment, right? Where we are leveraging the best of all. It could be from AWS, Azure, GCP, Akamai, IBM, Oracle. We are taking the best of all the CSPs and incorporating it into our ecosystem, right? So the challenge that we come across when we are leveraging the best of all these different CSPs is that they have their own respective cloud billing reporting formats, right? So if I'm coming from a finance background or an engineering background or from a business background, operation delivery background, all these different teams understand their different, understand the reports in their own way of, in their own way, right? So but the ask over here is that the reports that they pull from all these different CSPs should be in a standardized way, in a format which is understood by all the stakeholders, irrespective whether I am coming from a finance team, engineering team, operations team, delivery team, architecting team, irrespective of which team I am coming across, that report which I am pulling it from this different unified report I am referring to over here is, it should be in such a way that all the teams should be able to understand it, right? And this is what I can see as one of the biggest challenge which almost all of us who are into this FinOps world are encountering is. Now, what's the solution for this is, as per the best practices, as per the recommendation from FinOps.org group is, ORG group as well is to adapt the focus, right? So what is focus I'm referring over here from a solution recommendation perspective is like, we need to adapt, we need to start pulling out the report which follows the focus format, which is nothing but FinOps open usage and cost usage specification, right? So we need to make sure that in the ecosystem, wherever we are working on, we are able to get these reports in a normalized, standardized format so that all the teams can refer to it in a consistent, unified way. So we have a challenge, we have a recommendation from the recommendation and best practices that is focused. Let's start leveraging it and make the best use of it so that it is understood by all the teams. Right?
Thank you,
That is from
Anand.
the
Thanks.
challenges perspective.
Thank you. Very interesting. I think billing standards, unified billing messaging, adopting a multi-cloud strategy, that kind of gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of managing the costs at scale. Thank you so much. I think I'll deep dive into the next question, which is, how do regulatory compliance requirements shape cloud vendor selection and financial operation strategies for your organization? Anybody would,
Sure.
you want to start?
I'll probably go with that. So on a lighter note, probably regulatory and compliance reminds me of famous Amitabh Bachchan dialogue, Parampara, Pratishta, Anusashan. You have to, they're very strict, right? And other perspective here is, so when the panel was being introduced, I come from Geo, right? So we are into a number of different businesses. We are not just telecom. We have an overlap with the refinery business. We have an overlap with mobility, financial, payment, media. If I can put it in Dr. S.J. Shankar's words that he described the European mindset, my situation is somewhat similar. Their problem is my problem, but I have my own other set of problems here as well, because there are a number of regulations that we are subjected to. It could be TRAI, RBI, SEBI, GDPR. Of course, there is a famous joke on GDPR that GDPR, when you're dealing with a lot of customer data, GDPR is like your ex. It says, keep the memories, delete the data. So all these things become a lot of nightmare when you're trying to deal with. One of the problems that happens is, when you're through all these guidelines that you have to comply to, many a times it does drive your cloud selection. A particular use case or particular example that I can give you is, say for a particular application, if we have to use Databricks, TRAI mandates that our data should not be shipped outside the Indian geographies. Now, if I look at Databricks as a solution that is being provided, it is only available as of now, if I'm not wrong, on AWS and Azure in India region. But I have a preferential pricing with Google. I cannot use Google for that particular project. So at an organization, when you look at a mature organization, when you look at all these guidelines coming in, usually the approach always by the organization is that whenever you're deploying a solution, please ensure that there is a Bible which is the best of all the world. So you have to be compliant to all the guidelines that are there so that you are not running into it. And adhering to these guidelines is not negotiable for any company. So there is a cost implication that it results to. That cost implication has to be accounted for right at the start of the project in your costing exercise when you're doing. But these are not negotiable. Does it define how your cloud selection happens? Yes, because this is the most important thing. In such cases, FinOps takes a step back for all the organizations. Because when you're dealing with customer data, when your reputation is at stake, that takes the top priority.
Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, so adding to what Gaurav had mentioned, okay. So basically, around 10 years back, we expect, at least in Indian market, we don't see security or compliance at a top notch. But as RBI, SEBI have strictened in, then everybody has started following that just to comply themselves. So particularly, so basically I'm from PayU, which is specifically to payment gateway. So we have to be very much secure to gain the trust from our customer merchant. where we have to be almost all the compliance that is there in a market, so that our environment should look very much secure, stable, and it shouldn't impact our automation and scalability. So all the thing is very much closely related to each other. Okay. So let's take an example of choosing of your cloud. Okay. So where we wisely choose where all the cloud which is having a more potential on automation security, as well as giving us a flexibility to work as a policy, as a code, where we can try to fetch as many information, and it should be inline protection, not as more sort of reactive one, which we want to take it. So similarly, we try to build lots of policies like restricting user from outside India via having a defined access policy. Then with respect to data, we have to be end-to-end encryption. Even our cloud provider shouldn't have access to our data, and all that pinpoint is there. We have to be very much at a top notch. Like starting from layer 7 to layer 3, we have to make sure that everything is well defined, well architected, and it has to be taken into consideration in the initial phase. So as we implement the application, we can't go at a last moment and try to implement that thing. We have to consider security, compliance, and governance at the initial phase itself. So I want to quote a very famous quote from Warren Buffett, where he particularly mentioned that it takes a years or 20 years to build your reputation, and it takes hardly 5 minutes to spoil it. So since PayU is one of the leading payment gateway, where we are in the industries from last 10 years, and touchwood, we are in a very good shape in terms of security. And also, personally, I feel compliance is not your cost. It is your investment, where you are building a trust between or building a credibility between your merchant and your end users. So that's what I want to mention.
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you, Anand. I think very interesting, right? Because and with so much explosion of AI that is happening now, security is of paramount importance, right? We just cannot ignore it or avoid it, because that becomes like your first brick when you start deploying an application or you start any project. And for security, all of these regulations and compliance, those become like the foundational pillars of your entire organization. Thank you so much. I think I'll move on to my next question, which is, what do you think are some of the effective approaches to distribute cost ownership across business units? Say your security team, your infra teams, your finance teams. And this is very important, right? I have seen firsthand where, a lot of blame game starts shifting in. Something goes wrong till the time everything is right, it's all haywire, it's all good. But one thing goes down and, so many meetings start happening, so many mail exchanges start happening. How do your organizations deal with it, and what is your suggestion on that? Maybe Prashant, would you like to add? Yeah.
Yeah. So actually whenever the cost is there, so we have a infrastructure cost is there, security cost is there. We are also using a third parties and everything. So whenever that something is happened, we have to make sure that who is accountable. We are not here to, as an organization, we are not to blame anyone or anything, but we have to make more accountability.
Yeah.
So we have to make a reports.
Yeah.
Where there are so many models available that are there for FinOps model. That's like chargeback, and there are subacks are there. So first start creating a report. Then we have in the AWS, there are, if you are monitoring infra, so there are so many tags and everything is available. Cost Explorer is available. Because in our organization also, there are 3 business units are there. Sadi, Sangam, we have Astro also. So we have to make sure where we are spending, how much we are spending for Sadi, how much we are spending for Sangam and all. So we have to make sure we have proper reports and everything is there. So at least we come to know the ROI. So what I am spending on the infra and everything, how much I am getting from there. And there like a security. When it's come to security, security is a shared responsibility. It's not affecting only infra, but as well all the organization and everything. So their cost will be come across the organization level. And there are some business unit wise also, there are we are using third party like PayU. There are like some CDA and everything is there. So we have to make sure we are aligned with the finance team as well. We have that, and we allocate a cost from every month or quarterly. At least we should meet and make a reports and everything. So we come to know where actually our cost is going. So we have to become more accountable what our part is and how can we grow as an organization. And we are not going to do any wastage, because wastage in cloud, so many times it happens if we are not proper tagging and everything is there, so you not come to know where the wastage is going. We are not we are not saying that not spend money on that cloud and everything, but we have to make sure where the actually cost is going. We are aware, we should have aware about that, where we are actually spending and which unity we are spending.
Very good point, Prashant. I think FinOps is not about limiting the use of cloud. It's more about using it smarter.
Smarter, yeah, smarter way.
Very good point. Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so basically aligned to him. So we also almost doing the same thing, but we being in the industry, and PayU keeps acquiring multiple entities. So we have to build some process where it can be adhered by multiple teams. And I am surprised to see, as we have a tax, as we have a proper reporting to our, you can say, our security guy, business guy, or even our engineering people. So once they try to adopt, they get to know this thing, they try to build their, inbuild their culture and make sure that whenever they build the application next time, they itself give us a projection that this is the best processor, or this is the best way where we can do the retention of our data, or whichever is the high consuming areas that we can do it. Okay. Similarly, while doing a touch base of UAT environment or the devs environment, they give us a suggestion that, boss, I am not going to run for 24/7. I just require for 2 hours, 3 hours. So they themselves giving us a solution. So ultimately, we are having a 4 major pillar where we talk about information, the tags, and that we have discussed right now. Then we have you can say optimization. What all things that we can bring into the system by doing the optimization, choosing the right compute, choosing the right retention policies, and also defining the process, comparing with your, you can say, business versus your ROI in terms of the expense of your cloud environment. Then we try to streamline that thing with a operate model. This is the third pillar, where we want to build that culture, have a very user-friendly dashboard like Kudos or something which AWS recently built, which is very much easy to available. They can build their own dashboard. They can easily access that data, having a, you can say, budget constraint, or if you are seeing any abnormality, getting alerts on daily basis. So accordingly, they took a call from their own, and these guys are coming up with us saying that, boss, I'm seeing some abnormality, just try to help them out. So ultimately, user awareness and everything which is coming in the operate model. And lastly, we are talking about rewards. So reward is something which is a continuous improvement, or continuous calling out of our person. If anyone have done a good job in terms of savings, we try to call out in terms of in the finance area where team have done explicitly job in their area. Okay, so it is more sort of, once we have this data, it is more sort of, if it is measured, it is managed. So similar way, if you measure that data, it will be managed by their stakeholder. So building a culture and managing that, how people awareness, if these are good, then definitely it will be, we are going in the right direction, and we don't have to bother much to people, because they are having easily access to data, and these guys are coming up to share us a knowledge.
Thank you. I think, Shiv, what I hear is it's a combination of culture, yes, collaboration, and data, and making decisions based on the 3 pillars that you cited. Yeah, I think makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll move to the next question, which is, now we've been talking about FinOps, and the term FinOps is too much in the trend. It's like absolutely critical in today's technology environment. it means different to different people. It means different to every organization. In fact, it means different to every role in the organization, every persona. To a CFO, it might mean different. To a CIO or another CXO, right? What does it mean to you? Like, how do you define FinOps as a term in your organization? Anybody would like to start? Yeah.
So I'll take that. So again, I'll take probably two different types of examples. In terms of, there are two parts to it. One is, of course, you have FinOps meaning different things and probably what value that you generate out of it. So recently we onboarded a service, an AI-based service, which helps optimize or compute based on, the utilization of different components. Now, what we ended up doing was the value that we, when we went to the finance, the accounting team was, with this service, right? If you're paying, let's just say, $10, we're not at geoscale that we pay, 1,000 crores, but let's just say we pay $10 right now. With this service on board, we'll pay this service probably $3, but our $10 bill will probably come down to maybe around $4, which essentially means that overall we'll be paying $7. We have a 30, sometimes 40% improvement. That's how we've gone and convinced our finance account, we want this service. The engineering team basically took that as, because the service, it's an AI-based service, it adapts itself. You have applications that look at the consumption, it goes up and down. A lot of our daily incidents that, your on-call folks that they had to do suddenly reduced by 80%, which means the life of an engineer in a DevOps person actually improved, right? So from accounting and finance, they saw cost reduction. Our engineering team actually saw an improvement, in life. And of course, from a product perspective, suddenly even those small incidents, right? That button click where the page was loading, the customer actually saw more stability. Okay. So across this organization, one particular service had different meanings or different value. But the other side is everyone still has to be on the same page. In the start, now we talk about what, in the end, we are an IoT company. We charge subscription for the vehicles and devices that are there on the road. In the end, we get money for per device. What is the cost that we are bearing per device? In the start, we basically did, the simple way. Cloud cost itna hai, the number of active subscriptions on the road, and divide that number, and that's basically a per device cost. But when, we get into accounting practices, we had different enterprise customers, OEMs. With large customers, your pricing is different. Margins become a bit of an issue. So how do you essentially get your engineering, accounting, and everyone on the same page, saying that, even though you're looking at your overall cloud cost, you actually need to build those cohorts differently. Your OEM pricing is slightly different. They might be using similar services, similar cloud, but in the end, your margin per customer is slightly different. So, and in the start, when we got into audit and everything, suddenly our per device cost seemed very different because business, accounting, and everyone was not in alignment with how we calculate a per device cost. So everyone has to be on the same page in the end. Value can be different, but until unless it is again in line with what your business makes money and same KPI, then things can go for a toss.
Very interesting. Thanks. Thank you.
So I would like
please
to
go ahead.
add the one point here.
Go ahead,
Thanks, Neil,
Afreen.
to explain very well. So basically, today we are here to discuss about the FinOps. So we need to first understand that FinOps, it means finance. It doesn't mean that today we are discussing a FinOps and finance, it has not been there before, right? Finance, accounting, procurement has always been there in the IT industry, and it is everywhere. It's not IT industry. In every industry, every business, we do have a finance team. The change is that now engineering team or technology team is also started using or understanding the finance. So earlier what happened that this cost saving and money and everything, it's just a part of the responsibility of the business leader, just like C-level leader, CTO and CFO are only the person who take care of the business and budget. But now what is happening that we are bridging the gap. With the help of the FinOps, we are actually involving the engineering people, technology people to understand the finance, to share the accountability. That is very important. That earlier how we started, where earlier we just had the system administrator, network administrator, data administrator. Then what it's come? SysOps, DevOps, AIOps. Now it's FinOps. It means that system doesn't change, server doesn't change. Everything has been there. What we are doing actually evolving in the practice, we are bridging the gap. We are involving the more people, we are sharing the responsibility so that everyone is accountable. As Veronica has mentioned that the blaming game. So this blaming game, how it started, because only specific people handling the specific thing. When we started sharing the accountability, this blaming game, this Tom and Jerry game is stopped, and we all are responsible for what we are doing that. So we don't need, so for example, when I'm participating in a stakeholder meeting, I don't need to show why this percentage has been used, or I don't need to give the justification or convince everyone, because everyone on the same page. How it has happened with the help of the accountability. So sharing the responsibility, accountability is very important. That's how the FinOps is doing what is doing. Finance is there, but now we're involving the technology people to understand the finance and be participating into the finance and managing the cost. That is the thing we are doing, and that's the finance and FinOps is helping in the IT industry, that because everyone is running behind the cost saving. Now we just not do the cost saving or cost spending, we have to the cost intelligence. So that's what we are doing in our organization.
Right, so I think we are empowering people across the organization irrespective of the roles they are in, right? Got it. Thank you so much, Afreen. Anand, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, well said, Afreen. Just in continuation to that, I'll just add one line on top of it. Like, how do we make sure that we are able to make the business value, we are able to make the value of every dollar that we are spending, right? It could be either onto the public cloud, because nowadays FinOps is not just restricted onto the public cloud, right? It is extended to the on-premise and a hybrid multi-cloud environment as well, right? So how do we ensure that we are able to make the value of every dollar that we are spending, it could be on the cloud or it could be on the technology, right? So one of the approach that we definitely can think of to take is to either follow a centralized approach, methodology, or we can have a decentralized methodology or an approach. When I say centralized or decentralized approach so what I'm trying to say over here is like, by following a centralized approach, one of the advantage that you get is that you have a control over the entire ecosystem, not only from the cloud saving perspective, but it also helps you to understand as to how, as Afreen mentioned, how we are effectively and efficiently managing the overall expenses and the ROIs that we are getting out of it, right? By following a centralized approach. If we are following a decentralized approach, it means that we are sharing the accountability to each of the business unit, as an example I'm saying, and we are making the respective business unit and the owners either by calling them as a cloud cost lead or cloud cost champions and so forth, who takes the accountability for the respective business units or the teams that they are looking into, right? So that way we all get an assurance, we all ensure that we are accountable for the ecosystem that we are managing it, and we are not only just saving the cost, but we are efficiently optimizing it and bringing the better ROI for the organization as well. Whereas in case of centralized system, as I said, right, so though you have a centralized control, but still it takes a lot of governance and guardrails to be in place, and also the people who are sitting at the centralized area, they need to make themselves available with all the teams, make sure that they have all the information details with them, and make the best use of the information that they are getting from all these different stakeholders, which could be coming either from the finance team, engineering team, business, or the operations team and delivery, right? So that's also one way of looking into it.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you so much. I think very good point. And what I've seen is, cost is just one piece of the puzzle, right? What I have been observing is that leaders today, they're not shying away to spend dollar money if they are getting that business value in return. So what is the ROI in terms of the business that you're getting against each dollar spent is the high point of discussion in whatever conversations that we go. Thank you so much. Thanks. Okay, so the next question would be, which cloud financial management KPIs are most relevant at the leadership level? And how can business value be measured beyond cost savings today? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll go on this. And I'll start off by narrating an incident, and I think we were talking about tagging, so guys, please don't tag it to my organization. So, of late, you see a lot of Indian businesses, Gujarati-led businesses doing across the globe, right? They're doing some great stuff. I have one of my friends who works for one of the Gujarati-led businesses, and I happened to just ask him the same question. I asked him, what are the KPIs that you actually look at? And he gave me a very hard-hitting answer. He said, life is different when you're working in a startup VC, which is VC funded, or you're working in a company that is being managed by first world managers. They talk about all these KPIs and numbers, and you have to convince them on these numbers. But when it comes to a Lala company, मोटा भाई जब बैठता है ऊपर और बिजनेस रिव्यू करता है, उसको हिसाब देना बहुत मुश्किल है. सेठ को कन्विंस करना बहुत मुश्किल है. Of course, pain and truth aside, jokes aside, but in terms of KPIs, of course, it's not just that, but there is a difference when senior management or senior leadership is actually looking at it, and there is a difference when probably the CFO office is looking at it. So I think we were talking about some cost attribution, splitting of cost between businesses. That is okay. That happens at when you're dealing with your engineering team. But when you're actually in front of the senior management, all they need to know is what is the cost of infra as a percentage of your revenue that you're actually getting in. And I was talking about like Jio is into multiple businesses, right? But when it comes to actually looking at this particular kind of a cost, we go back to our own DNA, which is a telecom company. And in telecom company, you measure the profitability by a term which is called ARPU, which is average revenue per user. So anything that I take to the management, the first question will be, what is the implication on ARPU, right? Many times they look at through a bird's eye view, that is what is the overall cost and the revenue that we are driving. But then there are certain solutions that they will actually go and dig deep into and get to a point where they would like to know what is the cost per transaction or cost per user that we are incurring, because that directly affects my ARPU. I'll give you an example. Last year by October, TRAI came out with guidelines for ensuring that we do speed tests for all our users, for ensuring quality of service for them. And we submit this report back to TRAI on a monthly basis. Now, if I go to my senior management with a state-of-the-art speed test solution, where I am just incurring ₹1 per customer per test, my boss will kill me. He'll say it is not possible. We have 500 million customers. This is not acceptable. So cost for them is what they look at the overall profitability. But then, is cost everything? No. They also look at what is the brand value that you're driving, what is the customer experience that you're driving, right? What is the regulatory compliance that you're actually incurring? So that also makes a lot of difference. So it has to be optimized, but then, yeah, there are other factors to it.
It has to be a balance.
Sorry, I'll just finish with this.
Good.
The best way to learn FinOps is in a Gujarati, Marwadi or a Sindhi company. They teach you finance that no one else can, not even Harvard can.
Got it. Anybody else has anything to say?
Yeah, I can take a stab on that.
Go ahead.
So I believe like there are different personas, right, when it comes to your entire FinOps story. For example, right, you might have the sales team who's there out in the market trying to sell your product. And again, right, he's looking back at the engineering team, hey, I want a tenant to be power on, right, on the fly. So FinOps guy then says, okay, there's no budget around it, right? So what would you do? So again, sometimes, right, these decision making becomes very important. It has to be done on the fly, and it could be a $100 million customer, right, sitting in front of you. So that is where also things like your DevOps team, your operations team, engineering team come together, and they can say, okay, fine, we can just like roll out this infrastructure within a matter of like maybe 10 minutes. You can finish your demo, and then again, we can offset that cost specific to your sales. So you bring in sales of 100 million, we can offset that cost to you. So again, there are different ways of looking at the investment story. It's not only related to, okay, my management layer has given me budgets, I'm gonna stick to that. If you can show value in your business, if you can provide, yes, there's gonna be a growth around a story associated to it. I think like with mindsets and like-minded people, they are more than happy to kind of make those investments. So that's one small takeaway which we had in one of our past examples. Anyone else want to share any story around that?
So I just want to add one point here, that ROI, KPI. So there's a one very famous term or terminology is going on in the FinOps, which is a unit economics. I'm sure that you guys heard about this. It is exactly the same the way Gaurav has explained and the Palash has said that unit economics is a method that you not just look into the total spending or the ROI or the just KPI. You just look on the unit economics. It means that you look for the use per economics or per service delivery or the transaction of the delivery, a specific service. So it helps you to align the cost which you are going to spend, and you also get the beneficial perspective that how much you are getting the efficiency. Sometimes what happens that you are spending and you are generating the profit as well, but are we doing the efficiently? That is an important factor that we can measure using the help of the unit economics. And that's how the FinOps teach us that how we can leverage the unit of economics. So I highly encourage that if you're really struggling with the finance and you are already doing the ROI and KPI and everything, go ahead and start implementing the unit economics. It is a game changer. And I have already applied, and I'm doing this from since 3 years, and it is really helpful for my organization, especially when you are working in a giant and complex environment. So this is one of the points that I would like to highlight.
Thanks, Afreen. I think unit economics in the longer and the larger run will actually affect your organization's, say, bottom line or top line.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the idea, right? And you know, we have such a good panel sitting here, such experience, but you know, the organizations that you come from, none of them are, I mean, none of the main business of your organizations are managing infra, or, you know, or none of you are really cloud service providers, right? So I'm sure leaders would want to really spend as much less time in managing all of that complexity and investing in it, right? And so, you know, so here I am, Akamai, right? No, just kidding, right? But yeah, I mean, you know, of course, you should take advantage of, you know, multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. That's where, you know, you involve more experienced, more mature players in your, you know, transformation journey, and that's how really they can help you have better performance, better customer experience, user experience, and of course, you know, optimize cost. Yeah.
Veronica, I would just like to correct.
Go ahead.
We are partners with Akamai,
You
and
are.
also
I know.
also a provider, cloud provider as well. So GeoCloud is there,
GeoCloud
GeoAzure is there.
Yeah.
So we are in that business as
Thanks.
well.
So I just like to add one question here. So I mean, I don't want to divert with the topic. We are here discussing about the public and private cloud. But don't you think that we do have a FinOps as well in the enterprise environment? I mean, where we are not having the cloud, for example, in banking domain, even in my organization, 80% our workload is running on the multi-cloud, but we do have a 20% where we are running on the enterprise system, the infra, which we have set up our own self. Still, we are implementing the FinOps over there, finance over there. So we don't need to be mispronounced. This FinOps is only for the cloud, despite we are discussing about the cloud complexity to the clarity. But yes, we do have a FinOps practices over the services or the infrastructure where we don't have any cloud.
Yeah, FinOps is everywhere. It's in sales, marketing. I mean, that's the hot topic of discussion in every organization, right? Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question. We know that cloud spend today is increasing rapidly. What do you think are the major drivers which are driving complexity in this area? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can go on that first. Okay, so I believe most of us in this room must have built some product which has got some amount of AI enabled it. You build your product, you deliver it to the market, you give it to your customers, and then after one fine day, after a month, right, you get a long bill from the cloud provider. What has happened? Okay, you forgot to implement your guardrails. You forgot to make it multi-tenant and restrict it to specific people who are going to use some use cases. Did you forget, right, like there could be other additional egress charges? There's a lot, right, that comes in. So I think with the advent of technology, with these additional new cutting edge technology which is coming up, specifically where people are adapting AI, enabled services, which is backed by LLMs, I think there is a deviation on the cost control side of things, because everything is consumption based. So previously it used to be fixed price based. You used to have a specific figure, right? Okay, I'm going to run my workloads. Here is 100K per month. And then again, right, that will more or less deviate by 1% or 2%. Economics and equations have changed today. It's all consumption based. Pricing is dynamic based on the usage. For example, right, my colleague sitting on my left might be searching for component which is textual based. The person to my right might be searching for context, right, which might be specific to graphics, right, and so forth. So the consumption pattern changes. You really cannot go back and say, okay, fine, I'm going to give, let's say, X amount, which means if I'm going to limit that particular expense, let's say to X dollar, then again, he cannot go back and start using the product, right, beyond a particular period. Same for him. So how do we do that, right? So that is one of the complexity that has come in today, where you balance the equation between how can you control the cost as well as provide the functionality of your product. Because if you curtail anything, right, your platform or your product will not get adopted at the end of the day. So that's one of the complex areas which we have come across. The other part is, right, we heard about the security part of things. A lot of companies, right, they tend to have the egress gateway endpoints across their cloud providers through one centralized system. Because the security guy and the CISO will say, I want every single bit of traffic to be logged so that none of my data, right, goes out. You have got DLP systems, you have got WAF and whatnot, right? Today, like the modern landscape has changed. So when you add up to those additional complexities, right, specific to compliance for requirement for companies, right, those will definitely bringing a lot of cost variations, which you can predict, but even, right, it'll reflect back in your bill. So I would just want to like kind of highlight that when you're doing the groundwork, right, I think that designing part and architectural part will play a very important role, right, before you adapt these services. Because there'll always be that uncertainty factor, and that is where like FinOps guys, right, definitely if they're backed by the engineering team and DevOps team and other ones, they can give you a vision, right, okay, here's what you should implement. So I'll leave with that thought.
Yeah, thanks, Palash. I would like to just summarize what others has already mentioned about the complexity. So how we tame that complexity, we need to address the three things. One is the speed of innovation, lack of visibility, and decentralization. So I start with the lack of visibility. I mean, whenever I discuss about the lack of visibility, I always say, don't forget your basics. So what are the basics? Basic is the communication. So when we have a strong communication, what is mean by the strong communication in the IT industry? It means that how our technology or the engineering team well communicated to the business. I mean, the business has some own expectations on how we are meeting their expectation, how we are delivering to the customer. If we have a lack of visibility, it means that we are delivering something, business are expecting something, then this gap is wider and it's create the complexity. To reduce this complexity, work on the strong communication. Strong communication, it means that you don't have a visibility problems. So when you don't have a visibility, you are clear to have a same goal. So your business team and your technology team or engineering team working on the same goal. Always think that wherever you are, in which organization you are working, either is a startup or is a mid-level or is a giant organization, technology, finance, procurement, everything is an enabler. And the business always need the enabler. Business can't run without these enablers. So these enablers should be well communicated to the business and vice versa. This is the one way of understand the ways of working. So after the lack of visibility, speed of innovation. In this IT era, AI era, we are running behind the innovation, but we forget the optimization mindset. So when we are implementing anything, either it's a AI or without AI or any technology or any niche technology you're working, understand that optimization mindset is important because so that you can hold what you want. And as already discussed that security policies, guardrails, different compliance, governance, GDPR and everything, it is also comes in this part. So don't forget this optimization mindset when you're running behind the speed of innovation. And the third point, which is the decentralization, I already mentioned about the accountability. Decentralizations come, this complexities come when you don't have a proper alignment and a proper shared accountability. So accountability is must when you are working with a multiple teams. FinOps is a team, finance is a team, procurement is team, technology is team. Every team is working if you are shared accountability model and if you are following the CFM framework, it means cloud finance management framework, then definitely you don't have these of the drivers of the complexity.
Thank you, Afreen. I think, so visibility, right? You very, very good point, very well said, where visibility will eventually lead to another complexity, which is unpredictability. Like you're not able to predict your cloud cost, at the start of the year, or you're not able to budget it well. That's also, I think, one of the, complexity that comes with managing cloud. And I think for that, again, couple of things. One is, of course, the multi-cloud and the hybrid cloud strategies that you can use. Because, in my prior experience, while I was working with enterprise customers, there used to be certain customers who used to tell, oh, so-and-so cloud provider promised me X dollars of MRR, but now it's coming out to be 2X and 3X. I don't know where that cost is going, whether it's going, whether my data is going across regions, whether there is a huge egress charge on my bills. So I think that intelligence in the teams across the organizations should be there. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think I'll go to my, I think this would be my second last question, which is, could any one of you share more like a light bulb moment when a data or a dashboard or any tool changed one of your key business decision for your organization?
Yeah, I'll go first again.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Feel free.
Okay, I'll again start with the story. So all of you are aware of, right, like December is approaching and it's gonna be Christmas time. So people are gonna go on their leaves and vacations. And before they leave for the vacations, right, at least in the US, they have got students who would normally, before their breaks, they are allowed to kind of complete off their yearly cohorts or probably their studies or probably some exams, right, they have to complete online. Now, as a general trend, at least like we as, not as MSPs, but at least like the platforms which we manage and help deliver content over like multiple cloud providers, we always know that, okay, fine, here's the peak period. This is my consumption is gonna look like. And probably for the next 2 weeks, I can just scale up and beef up the infrastructure. And that's something which all of us practice, right? I've got no other points, just scale up the infrastructure, right? Without having a cost control. So that mindset, at sometimes it works, right? Most of the time it works, but not always in the long run. So what we figured out is like probably towards the December end, before the people went for their break, you would normally beef up the infra so that all the students are happy, they complete all their courses. And then again, right, there's a small period, right? Because there is a shift between the US timelines and India timelines. So you normally have that 5 to 6 hours of peak periods. So what we went back and found that during that peak period, right, our infrastructure was running at its peak capacity. All's good, nothing on a sort. And then we decided, right, we're going to scale down the infra because, again, it's going to reduce on the cost because probably there are more than 1 million students, right, across the globe. So in due course of time, when we did that, it suddenly struck us like there's a different type of usage pattern, right, which is outside the hours, okay? And again, that led us to think that when the students are supposed to use the platform on a specific time, we are predicting, yes, the usage would be there during that peak period, but it's not. People are actually using it in different time zones. Or probably people are using it outside those hours. So again, we went back and we did our math and then figured out. And then again, right, we asked our sales teams out of the US to go and figure out what is the kind of overall consumption, right? And what are the students doing about it? So to our surprise, right, we came to know that like the people and the students, right, they were not utilizing the platform specifically during the daytime of theirs. They were finding specific hours by which they could automatically go back to those courses in a leveraged way with their in-suite personal time and then again go through their curriculum. Because it was a big curriculum, right, they had to complete. So that made us think, right, like, yeah, we are trying to predict the options of probably scaling up the infra, but it's not always true, right? You should kind of do a maths very regularly, and sometimes human behavior judgments also may be incorrect. So then we went ahead, right? We went back to engineering team. We said, okay, fine, here's the problem. We need to solve it. We need to keep the infra running. Plus at the same time, right, you have to run certain different workloads, on-scaled, on-demand workloads that can help the people complete those courses. So we went back, we told the team, they came back and with different ideas. And again, that is where like the FinOps guy went and said, okay, fine, you have got X number of budget. Probably we can leverage it by X amount. So go ahead and you can complete this. So things like spot instances, running them for a short period, on-demand instances, right? I think these are like some of the different areas where we had to adapt in order to kind of give prior attention to the workload so that like, people could complete of their courses. So that's a quick summary of like what we did. And it definitely it helped out in the long run. It was like a eye-opener for us as well.
Very nice, very nice. Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Another Christmas is arriving soon, so
Yeah.
you're well prepared.
I hope you save as much cost this time as well. Go ahead, please.
So I have nothing major to discuss on the light bulb, but just want to share with everyone that it is a purely a data where we try to see. Normally people work on compute and see that I'm consuming that sort of data, but they missed out the hidden cost is like your data transfer cost or your IO cost, data IO cost, and snapshot cost, which I think in most of cases, people don't try to count it during the initial phase.
Yeah.
Which we try to, as we have these reports or dashboard, where we actually see that there are nearly 20% of your workload is being captured by this unwanted or hidden cost, which we try to miss out in early phase. So that's what I want to edit, or else the rest other people have already added.
Go ahead, please.
I mean, I think this was an example that came out from the exact the situation what he mentioned. So right in the start, now with our devices, we have like an MQTT server, and you actually want to build a a cluster of MQTT servers that everything's talking to each other. That's backed by some sort of a cache. Interesting, at some point in time, we saw that our cache cost had increased drastically, right? And that was also becoming a bottleneck because suddenly if I have, hundreds of nodes, it's a cluster, everyone's talking to each other through that single cache node, and there is bottleneck, right? My servers are becoming slow, which has an impact on my devices. They're not able to send the data, and my cost is suddenly increased. After looking at that, a design decision of basically breaking up the cluster to individual nodes and very small changes for each one to know that, which device is connected to which node. That brought our cache-related cost, which means if that component was probably contributing to 5% overall cost, we brought it down to 1% in increased stability, right? And suddenly the network bottleneck that we initially had actually reduced, which means, as he correctly said, it's just about visibility into such elements which will help you define, again, cost and stability.
Very smart. Thank you so much. Is it working? Hello? Hello? Okay. Thank you. All right. I think last question of the day, but, we're talking so much about FinOps, but how can really FinOps survive if we not talk about AI, right? What about automation? How does automation, AI, all the trendy terms that you hear today, how is it really affecting your organization's FinOps strategy today?
I think I'll take this.
Go ahead, please.
Definitely, AI is a buzzing word, and we shouldn't be underestimate this. And for the AI, I would say that earlier what we were doing, we were just monitoring the other cost. With the help of the AI, what we are starting doing the predictive analysis. It means that we can predict our costs. Very genuine manner in that way that we can apply those methods in your infrastructure, either you are startups or the complex environments. So with the AI adoption, we can predict the cost, we can analyze the cost, and we can take the smarter decision. Earlier we are taking the business decision. We are taking some revenue-based decision, but now we are become more intelligent. So are increasing our intelligence. I think the AI adoption is very good, and how we can adopt this AI, how we can easily integrating the AI in our infrastructure. So for example, if you are leveraging any architecture, Neil has discussed about the architecture. When you are creating any architecture model, think starting with the AI, how we can adopt the AI or integrate the AI along with the FinOps and the compliance policy and everything. The early adoption you have an AI, more smarter infrastructure you do have. So this is the one thing that I would like to highlight here.
Thank you, Afreen. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Just
Palash.
wanted to add a few more points. I believe with FinOps, right, the total amount of data sets which is required to make decisions is widely available, right, to various different companies. Some companies have their different models, the customized versions of AI. For example, like for Geo, they might have a custom-built application, right, that probably fits the business purpose. So I think that foundation model is being built today with a lot of data points that can help in aided solutions, that can help to create the solution, as like also highlighted. Important thing is, as human beings, right, you cannot make those decisions. I'll give a quick example, right? We all of us have our mobile phones, right? Today, with the plethora of apps that's available, right, you have got every single type of information available in your fingertips. We need information in our fingertips, right? We want to order something, you have got Blinkit, Swiggy, and all these things, right? You want to figure out, maybe search a specific terminology, you will go to open up ChatGPT and you have that data. So at some point of time, right, like these data is currently being collected together. They are being formed, and again, as some foundation models will be formed out of these in the given future, where if you adapt FinOps, right, there will be some foundation model in the future, which already been there in the market today, and that can help you leverage your decision-making process much faster. You can build smarter applications, you can utilize them on a regular day-to-day operations. It can always have an impact on your lives as well. So I'll just leave to that, and if anyone else wants to add something on it, I think it's a game changer for all of us with AI-enabled solutions in place. Even the solution providers, right, are widely adapting AI on top of it. So we can thinker, but probably talk about Akamai. What's Akamai doing on the AI front?
Very well said, Palash. But the only one thing I would like to add one more point here. The FinOps, as you said, Veronica, without AI, we can't go ahead, and that's true. So what is the mean of the FinOps framework? So framework means that customize as per your need. Don't copy paste, right? I mean, if other organization following some AI practice doesn't mean it suits your business case, right? If everyone using a cloud, definitely, but everyone has their own business use case, business needs. So understand this part. Framework allow us to optimize as per your requirement. Similarly goes for the AI. Everyone is using AI, doesn't mean you have to use in a similar way. You have to first brainstorm your ideas, brainstorm your use case, that how you want to implement and how you want to get the benefits of the AI. Then you can go ahead with the AI. Sometimes it happens that, for example, in my case, one of the projects I worked at, all our other projects are working with very well with the AI, but one of the projects doesn't require that much of the AI. We hold ourselves, we brainstorm it, and we customize with a different LLM model. So that's the point here. You don't need to blindly go with the AI and just adopt it. First, you need to understand your requirement and customize as per the needs, and that's the purpose of the early adoption, so that you can get the more optimization mindset.
And AI is only that smart as much the data that it gets, right? So that's a very important point, and I really want to underscore that as well. And Palash asked me, right, what is Akamai doing in the field of AI? So Akamai, as a lot of people would know, is more from it has a background in CDN and it has a business in security space as well. But recently we ventured into the cloud business, right? So there's a platform called Linode, which Akamai acquired in 2022. And the idea, the vision, the mission of Akamai primarily is to become the world's most distributed cloud platform, right? Now, what does that mean? The Linode cloud platform today runs on Akamai's existing CDN backbone, right? So we have thousands of edge pop locations on the internet. So we basically want to bring the applications, the caching, the security, everything really as close to the users as possible. So the idea is breaking that centralized core data center of, say, the other hyperscalers that are doing today, and making cloud more decentralized, more closer to the users, so that certain use cases like low latency applications, I think that can really have a better performance. We recently got into a partnership with NVIDIA and launched AI Cloud for Akamai, which again serves the same purpose. There are certain GPUs, and again, the partnership with NVIDIA is primarily to have those edge locations closer to the end user possible. Thank you so much. I think with that, we come to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you again, speakers. It was really insightful. We had an incredible discussion, got a lot of learnings. I hope everyone learned something today. Any questions from the audience? Anybody? Go ahead, please. Can you say your name and organization, please?
Ruhul Amin from Atos.
Yeah.
So my question is on the use of AI in FinOps. So we have a different kind of an LLMs that are available across the platforms. Have any of you or your organizations ensuring that the data, the cost and usage data that you are sharing with the LLM is secured, and you are not, like, those LLMs will not reuse it for their own trainings and so on? I know there is an NDA kind of a thing that will be there, but what additional precautions that you guys are taking to ensure that your data is secure when you are passing it to LLMs?
I mean, so there are different ways to basically do it. Essentially, if you were to see, there are probably a lot of these LLMs, of course, they have their own cloud. You talk about Claude, you talk about, ChatGPT, OpenAI. At least what we've seen that probably works till now is there are their own versions where you have a deployment. As an example, AWS within Bedrock, you have a way of setting up, now interestingly, OpenAI has put the models in the last couple of months. So the whole premise over there is that ecosystem is within in itself, which means that any data that you share with that LLM is not necessarily going to go out. I mean, that's the whole assumption, going with cloud. So essentially, that's one way of ensuring some level of security. And of course, another way is you use LLMs with the idea of, you have those MCP servers, right? You essentially use LLM what they're good at, which is, generating some sort of, how do you use your system based on your natural language? And you get a lot less data and pass it to the LLM, but the actual core information is something that you can still control with your own services. So two different approaches is, something that we try and do.
Yeah, I believe in line with the answers which you already said. So for example, in the edtech background, right, what we have done is we have some of our proprietary platforms. And again, those also connect to different services like OpenAI, Azure based, or probably it will be connecting to ChatGPT and others. Now, at some point of time, right, what we have done is we have built a platform, right, that provides internal agents, right, which can be utilized by different teams. And again, NDA is just one part, right? Essentially, it doesn't necessarily, people do not go about checking that whether a data actually went back to the LLM for being trained. So some of them, right, get into NDA contract. Some of them provides certain options where you can turn off, tick mark off, SonarQube being one example, right? So they have come up with their own product that can help you kind of prevent that data, right, from going out. Or probably, even if it's going out, it's not being used for training, right, at their end. But it's a very good question. So I guess the guardrails can go a little bit deeper, where we can say, okay, fine, the data has to stay within the boundaries because I'm training it. A lot of companies, right, they have got very little bandwidth to create an LLM of their own. There are open source models and all, but by the time you will spend, right, to create an LLM and for utilization across for your own benefits, right, by the time you create that, there will be other products, other ones, right, as rolled out in the market. So maybe that effort versus creating a new one on-prem, just to have for data sovereignty and having complete control may not be viable, right? So NDA agreements would be one part. Second is you create your own agents, right, which can be repurposed for your different teams who can utilize those ones. That's all we have for now, but maybe in the near future, there would be some additional controls where each of the LLM providers would come up with. And I guess recently we saw, right, there are few legislations and governance rules being sent out. So for legal, I think ChatGPT is discontinued, right, for giving any recommendations. So similarly in the down the market, right, maybe companies should be able to adapt that, okay, fine, here's my information, this is proprietary, you cannot utilize it. Or there might be a specific prompt before you start that specifies that, okay, do not store this information, do not use to train it. So, yeah.
Thanks, Palash. Yeah, I think I'll take this last question in the interest of time.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Wonderful insights by every one of you. And I'm pretty sure that what I'm going to ask, every one of you must have really come across, based on your experiences and being the tech leaders of the industry, you must have come across this particular scenario. And Neil is going to really smile on that. Let's say your management comes and asks, you have to drop the cloud cost by, let's say, 50, 60%, okay? So what is the strategy that you would follow? And what is the suggestion that, or the recommendation on the practices or the approach that you would suggest? Because see, in general, expecting a 10%, 20% optimization is something that everyone can really upfront think of, right? But without really switching from a very well stable cloud setup to some other cloud setup, which generally promises 60, 70% cloud cost optimizations, you have to stay with the cloud and do those optimizations. So what approach you would take first to identify whether it's possible and then to reach to that level?
Gaurav, go ahead.
So one quick question back to him before we close. So is it using cloud-enabled cloud services, cloud-specific services, or is a traditional setup?
It's using the cloud-enabled setup.
Okay,
Cloud
so
services
when I say
setup.
cloud-enabled means it would be API gateways, something which is managed from within the cloud.
No, you can say not really managed, but self-managed, but the cloud service, but on the cloud setup itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, just want to kind of answer it in few different ways. I'll try to best on my capacity. So I believe yes, of course, like the management committee will always be under the pressure that, okay, your cloud cost is too high, and they will look out to different teams. Architecture is just one part of it, right? And again, that is a core component. So if you're architecting your application, and if you have moved from a monolithic type, let's say, to microservice-based architecture, you would know that for a certain budgets, you would run your workloads for a certain period, catering to a specific customer, and the customer might have a chargeback mechanism for using your product. That's just simple maths. Let's say for a given year, you do not get so much amount of usage, or probably, right, your teams who are probably, we are not getting directly into the scale down of the infrastructure, but without innovation, right, you might have to think of moving the architecture maybe to a different level. Let's say you're using Kubernetes. Within Kubernetes, right, there are multiple cost optimization that's available. For example, I'm just taking AWS for this example. You might be running Kubernetes, Fargate-based Kubernetes, okay, which manages the memory and CPU consumptions, right, for your workloads. So two parts, right? You do not have control on how many number of nodes it will scale up to, right? You just commit on the memory and CPU part. If you were to move away, right, then you have to just re-architect Kubernetes to a different way in order to write it as EC2 type nodes, right, and spot instances. So you say, okay, fine, I'm going to create a pool of resources that's going to run for a specific duration. It's going to auto scale up and scale down. However, it doesn't end there, right? There are also horizontal and vertical scaling capability, right, present within the cloud platform. So there are technicalities that includes things like Carpenter and KEDA-based scaling, which might specify my infra will only scale when there is a X number of connections to the system. The remaining of the time, right, is going to run with 2 nodes into the platform. There could also be things like when the traffic increases all of a sudden, right, it can also preserve some nodes and keep it so that, like, to capture that additional load. Because your application, right, that might break if it is under provisioned as well. So you have to keep both in mind. At one point of time, you're trying to lower your cost, but is it equivalent? Will it affect your platform, right? Does it have a business downtime? Because for every associated business downtime, right, there is a problem associated with the brand, the adoption of the product, and then, of course, right, the brand name and the value. So there has to be a balance that has to be struck. But again, there are these fine-grained optimization that can be done, which we have done in the past. I wouldn't say 50%, but at least to 30 to 40% is something that you can save. On top of that, right, you've got various different saving layers. You can go to spot instances, you can buy RIs for that, you can buy savings plans on top of that. You can go to AWS and say, I want a yearly commitment, bring my bill down. If doesn't, Geo will do it. And they'll say, okay, fine, I'm going to pay you X amount for the year, but again, I want my workloads to be running. On top of that, if you're still not happy, then again, right, it's a business decision if you want to move away to a different cloud provider altogether.
You can ask for credits.
Yes.
Akamai is there.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I think we are on time. We are actually delayed by time, but thank you so much. Thank you, brilliant panelists. Thank you, audience, for being such an engaged audience. I hope we carry this conversation out of this room, and let's make cloud a little less cloudy for all of us. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks.